Have you ever noticed how sometimes life feels like it's intentionally blocking your path? Like no matter what you try, every door slams shut. Maybe the promotion didn't come through. The relationship didn't work out, the plan fell apart. And part of you wonders, why does it feel like the universe is against me? But what if it's not against you? What if it's actually protecting you anymore? What if those closed doors aren't punishment, but God's way of redirecting you to something better? Listen, anymore. The reason you feel that restlessness in your spirit, the reason things aren't adding up, could be because God is whispering. It's time to let go. Anymore, it's time to surrender. And let's be honest, you and I both know surrender is not easy. We want control, we want answers, we want guarantees. But this morning, I want you to sit with me in this prayer, not from a place of fear, but from a place of deep trust. Because when you finally say, Lord, I surrender everything to you, you stop fighting battles you were never meant to fight, and you start walking in the peace you've been searching for. People hear the word surrender and they instantly think of defeat. They think of waving a white flag, giving up, losing control, or being powerless. But that's not what surrender to God really is anymore. Surrender is not weakness, it's power. It is the moment you stop pretending to be the master of everything, and you finally acknowledge that there's a greater power holding the universe together, more, and that same power is holding you. When you surrender, you're not giving up, you're leveling up. You are choosing to step out of the endless cycle of worry, overthinking, and exhausting control anymore. And you're stepping into a flow where God carries what you were never designed to carry in the first place. Think about how much energy you've wasted trying to fix people, fix situations anymore, and fix outcomes that were never yours to control. You stay up at night replaying conversations in your head, questioning decisions, doubting yourself, doubting your worth. That's the weight of control anymore, and it's heavy. The irony is that you think you're strong by holding on, but the real strength is when you let go. That's when your hands are finally open for God to place something new in them. Until you let go, your grip is so tight on what's broken that there's no room for what's better. Here's the truth: surrender requires more courage than control. Anybody can cling to a plan. Anybody can demand that life happen their way. But it takes faith, deep faith, to say, God, I don't see the full picture, but I trust that you do. I don't understand why this happened anymore, but I trust you'll bring something good out of it. That's not weakness. That's strength at the highest level. That's power, more. Because the moment you shift from relying on your limited ability to relying on God's unlimited ability, the weight on your shoulders lifts. You stop carrying the burden alone. You stop fighting battles that were never assigned to you. Look at the strongest people you know, not in terms of status or money, but in terms of peace. People who radiate calmness anymore. People who seem unshaken even when storms hit them. That strength doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender. It comes from knowing deep down, I don't have to know what's next anymore, because I know who's leading me. It's not weakness to let go, it's wisdom. It's not defeat to surrender, it's strategy anymore. Let me ask you, how many times in your life did you think something was a total loss, only to realize later it was the best thing that could have happened to you anymore? That breakup that crushed you turned out to be the very thing that opened the door to a healthier love. That job you didn't get forced you into a path where you discovered your true calling. That detour you didn't want to take became the road that led to your breakthrough. At the time, it felt like loss. But in hindsight, it was protection. That's the power of surrender. You don't always see it in the moment, but trust reveals itself over time. The most powerful prayer you can ever pray is the simplest. Lord, I can't anymore, but you can. That's where power lives. In the moment you stop pretending to be self-sufficient and you start depending on the one who made you. Weakness is pretending you can do it all alone, more. Power is knowing you don't have to. Power is standing in the storm and saying, I'm not afraid, because I know who holds me. The world may tell you surrender is for the weak. But let's be real, holding on to everything, forcing outcomes, pretending you have control, that's what weakens you. That's what drains your soul. The boldest, strongest, Most freeing choice you will ever make is to surrender. And once you do, you'll discover that the very thing you thought would break you is the very thing that makes you whole. You know that moment when you think you have life all figured out. You've made your plan, written it down in your notebook, maybe even pictured it in your mind 100 times, and yet, somehow, it doesn't work out. The promotion didn't come, the opportunity vanished, the relationship ended before it even started. And your first reaction is frustration, confusion, or even anger. You start asking, why, God? I worked so hard. I did everything right. Why isn't it happening my way? Here's the thing, maybe it's not supposed to happen your way. Maybe your way is too small, too limited, anymore. Too short-sighted. Maybe what you've been holding on to so tightly is actually blocking the blessings that are bigger than your imagination. And that's the mysterious, anymore, almost suspicious part of life. Sometimes, the very thing you think is a failure is actually God rerouting you to something far greater. It doesn't feel good in the moment, more. And that's exactly why faith exists. Faith is the bridge between confusion and understanding. Faith is the rope that pulls you across the canyon of uncertainty when you can't see the other side. Trusting God's will means acknowledging that your vision is limited. You think you know what's best for your life, but your vision is often clouded by fear, pride, or impatience. God's vision, on the other hand, is limitless. It sees the roads you cannot see, the obstacles that haven't happened yet, and the opportunities that will arrive at exactly the right moment, more. That's why His plan is always better than yours. And it's not just better, it's perfect. Even when it looks like a closed door, even when it looks like life is against you, that plan is unfolding exactly as it should. Sometimes the challenge is accepting that you can't force the outcome. You can't rush it, you can't control it, you can't twist it into your image. Anymore, no amount of worry, scheming, or effort can make God's plan fit into your timeline. And here's the suspicious part that people hate admitting that's a good thing. The delay, the detour, more the failure, you thought was permanent. It's protection, it's divine calibration. Your timeline doesn't match God's timeline, and His timing is flawless. Let's face it. Your plan probably isn't as big as you think. We humans are so limited in our thinking, so convinced that if we just push harder, or figure it out, we'll reach the life we want. But often, what we want isn't even what's best for us. God's plan is bigger, more abundant, and designed to bless not just you, but the people around you. When you try to force your plan, you might get the thing you want, but you could miss the thing you truly need. And that's why surrender matters. Saying, Lord, I trust your plan over mine, opens the door for something far greater than you imagined. The beauty is that you don't have to see the entire path to step on it. You just take the first step in obedience, more, trusting that God will guide you through the rest. Each closed door, each setback, each unexpected turn is not a rejection, it's redirection. And if you stay faithful, if you keep trusting, you'll start noticing a pattern. What looked like disappointment is actually preparation. What looked like loss is actually protection. What looked like delay is actually divine timing, anymore. So the next time life doesn't go according to your plan, don't panic, don't question, don't fight, don't demand. Pause, breathe, and say, Lord, I don't see the full picture, but I trust you. Your plan is better than mine. That simple act of faith, that moment of surrender, is where your life shifts, more. It's where you stop being a prisoner of your own expectations and start walking freely in the abundance God has prepared for you. And eventually, anymore, you'll look back and realize that everything that didn't work out the way you wanted was the very thing that led you to exactly where you were meant to be. Have you ever noticed how obsessed we are with control? We want to control our schedules, our relationships, our careers, even our feelings sometimes. We plan every detail, set every expectation, and still, anymore. Somehow, life manages to surprise us in ways that make us feel powerless. And that's the tricky part. We think we're strong because we're controlling everything, but in reality, control is an illusion, more. The more we try to hold on to it, the more exhausted and anxious we become. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away, anymore. You might even recognize it in your own life. You've stayed up nights overthinking decisions, replaying past mistakes, trying to predict outcomes, or convincing yourself that if you just work harder or plan better, everything will finally fall into place. And yet, despite all the effort, things still go wrong. People disappoint you. Any more plans fail, unexpected situations appear, and then frustration hits. Why isn't it working? Why is life so unfair? And here's the part most people never admit anymore. It's because you're trying to hold something that was never meant to be held. You're trying to control what is inherently uncontrollable, and it's draining your spirit anymore. The moment you realize that control is an illusion is the moment real peace begins. It's the moment you understand that you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You don't have to manipulate, force, or micromanage everything to feel safe. The truth is, God designed your life to flow through Him, not through your rigid plans or obsessive control. Once you start letting go, you create space for guidance, miracles, and blessings that never would have fit into the tight box you built for yourself. Think about it. All the people you admire, the ones who seem calm, confident, and unstoppable, they didn't get there by controlling everything. They got there by learning to let go, by trusting God anymore, and by moving forward even when the outcome was uncertain. That doesn't mean they're passive. It means they've discovered the secret. Real power comes not from control, but from surrender. Control gives the illusion of safety, but surrender gives actual freedom. Control keeps you tense, stressed, and exhausted. Surrender gives you peace, clarity, and direction anymore. And here's the suspicious part that people hate admitting. The more you try to control life, the more life seems to push back. It's almost as if every attempt to force an outcome creates resistance. Every plan you cling to gets delayed. Every perfect moment slips away. It feels like the universe is working against you, but maybe it's not. Maybe what's happening is divine protection. Maybe God is showing you that your version of safety, your version of success, isn't what you truly need. Maybe the path you thought you could control wasn't the path that was designed for your growth anymore, your peace, your blessings. When you stop trying to control everything, you begin to see life differently. You notice that small setbacks are lessons, that delays are preparation anymore, and that unexpected detours are actually openings for opportunities you couldn't have imagined. You start trusting that even if you don't understand the full picture, there's a bigger picture at work. That's when your energy shifts from tension to freedom, from anxiety to confidence, from fear to faith. The key is simple, but not easy. Stop trying to hold everything in your hands and start placing it in God's hands. Let go of the urge to control outcomes, people, and situations. Let go of the illusion that you are the one in charge. It feels strange at first, almost uncomfortable, because your mind is wired to resist uncertainty. But the more you practice surrender, the lighter you feel, the more peace fills your heart anymore, and the more you notice doors opening that you never could have opened on your own. Control may feel strong, but it drains your soul. Surrender may feel uncertain, but it fuels your spirit anymore. And the more you surrender, the more you realize that God was never a step behind you, waiting to catch up. He was always ahead, guiding, protecting, and orchestrating the life that was meant for you all along. Here's the thing about guidance: most of us want it on our terms. We want directions, answers, and signs before we take the first step. We want a map, a guarantee, a plan spelled out in bold letters, and we act like we can't move forward until we have it all. But here's the truth that almost nobody talks about. Guidance doesn't come first. Guidance comes after surrender. You have to let go of the illusion that you're in charge anymore, that you can control every outcome, and that your way is the right way. Only then does clarity appear. Only then do doors open, signs appear, and answers reveal themselves in ways you couldn't have imagined. Think about it. How many times have you prayed for direction while still clinging to your plan? You prayed for the promotion anymore, but you refused to accept a different role that could lead to even greater opportunities. You prayed for clarity in a relationship, but you held on to expectations that didn't align with reality anymore. You wanted guidance, but your heart was still closed, still gripping tightly onto what you thought you needed. That's why so many people feel stuck. The guidance is there anymore, but their hands are full of resistance. You can't receive the answers if you're holding onto the question as if it's a weapon. Surrender is the act of saying, I can't do this alone, more. I'm not in control, but you are. It's not passive, it's active faith. Anymore. It's consciously laying down your desire to dictate how life should unfold, and instead opening your heart to the possibilities God has in store. It's saying, Lord, I don't understand. I may not like this, but I trust you. And the strange thing is, the moment you surrender, the invisible thread of guidance starts to move. Subtle signs appear. Opportunities you never saw begin to line up. People show up exactly when they need to. Doors you didn't even know existed slowly open, one by one. Here's the suspicious part that people usually miss. God rarely gives guidance in the way you expect anymore. He doesn't hand you a detailed blueprint and a step-by-step manual. Guidance often comes in whispers, in nudges, in moments of intuition, in subtle shifts that require discernment anymore. And if your heart is full of resistance, if you're clinging to your own way, you'll dismiss those nudges, thinking they're coincidence, overthinking them, or ignoring them completely anymore. But when you surrender, you begin to notice the language of God. The signs, the confirmations, the quiet wisdom that points you toward the right path anymore. Surrender is also the moment you stop comparing your journey to anyone else's. You realize that you don't need to see the entire staircase, you just need to trust the first step. You don't need to know the full plan, you just need to trust the guide who sees the whole journey. Guidance doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require you to have everything figured out. It only requires an open heart, a willing mind, and the courage to follow even when the road is unclear. And here's what's beautiful once you surrender. You stop fighting against life and start flowing with it. You stop trying to force outcomes, manipulate situations, or bend people to your will. You let go of the heavy burden of control and start moving in rhythm with God's timing. That's when clarity arrives. That's when guidance becomes unmistakable. That's when you realize that every step, every pause, every detour you resisted was actually part of the path that was meant to lead you exactly where you're supposed to be. So if you're waiting for answers, if you're stuck trying to figure everything out on your own, here's the key: surrender first. Trust that God has the bigger picture, even if it doesn't make sense right now. Open your hands, open your heart, and step forward with faith. Because guidance doesn't chase those who cling to control. It follows those who surrender. And when you finally surrender, the invisible, perfect, divine path you were looking for will reveal itself, often in ways that are far beyond what you imagined, far beyond what you could have planned, and far more powerful than anything you could have forced. Have you ever felt trapped in your own life, stuck in a cycle of worry, doubt, or regret, thinking that the next step is always going to be just as heavy as the last one? That's the thing about holding on too tight. You think you're protecting yourself, but really, you're imprisoning yourself. You're holding on to the past, the mistakes, the fears, or the what-ifs, and in doing so, you block yourself from moving forward. Freedom doesn't come from clinging, freedom comes from surrender. Surrender is not giving up on life, it's giving life over to God. It's the act of saying, I release this burden, I release this worry, I release this fear. Lord, I trust you with what I cannot handle alone. And in that release, something miraculous begins to happen. Your shoulders feel lighter, your mind feels clearer anymore. Your heart starts to beat with a rhythm of peace instead of panic. That's the doorway to freedom. You weren't meant to carry everything, and the moment you surrender anymore, you start to realize that freedom isn't about escaping your life, it's about trusting God to transform it. Here's the suspicious part most people never notice anymore: the things that feel like endings are often the beginnings of something far greater. When you let go, you create space for new blessings to enter. When you stop clinging to what's familiar but limiting, God can fill that space with opportunities, people, and experiences that were never possible before. That's why surrender is so powerful. It's not just a spiritual act, it's a practical one. It removes the chains of your own making and opens doors that were invisible when you were still holding on. Think about it like this: you've probably tried to force change in your life on your own, anymore. You tried to push through problems, manipulate situations, or control outcomes, thinking that strength was about persistence. But persistence without surrender is exhausting. It's spinning in circles, anymore. Real strength is knowing when to stop pushing and start trusting. It's acknowledging that the map you drew may not be the one God designed. And the moment you surrender, anymore, you begin to move in the right direction without resistance. Surrender also means releasing fear of the unknown. The human mind hates uncertainty. It craves predictability, comfort, and control, anymore. But the truth is, all growth, all transformation, all breakthroughs live on the other side of uncertainty. And the only way to step into that space is to trust God, or to step forward knowing that even if the path is unclear, the guide is trustworthy. Freedom begins when fear ends, and fear ends when surrender starts. New beginnings often come disguised as endings, anymore. That job that ended unexpectedly, that relationship that didn't work out, that plan that failed. These are not punishments. They are God clearing the path for something better, more. But you can only see it when you let go. Holding on to the old life, the old expectations, the old disappointments keeps you stuck. Surrender is the key that unlocks the door, anymore. It's the act that allows God to rewrite your story in ways that are bigger, brighter, and more aligned with your true purpose. And here's the beauty of it. Surrender doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. It transforms your perspective, softens your heart, and strengthens your faith. You start to see life through the lens of trust instead of fear, possibility instead of limitation, hope instead of anxiety. The more you surrender, the freer you feel, anymore. And the more prepared you become to embrace the new beginnings God has for you. So today, if you're holding on to worries, past hurts, or things you think you must control, take a deep breath and say, Lord, I surrender everything to you. Let go. Open your hands. Step into the freedom that comes from trust. Because when you surrender, you don't just release the weight, you invite new life, new opportunities, and new beginnings that are far beyond what you could have imagined. Freedom is waiting. Your fresh start is waiting. And all you have to do is surrender. So today, as we close this prayer, anymore, I want you to remember this one truth: surrender is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of everything God has planned for you. Every closed door, every setback, anymore. Every moment of doubt has been preparing you for this very moment. When you hand over control, when you release your fears, when you stop trying to force life to happen on your terms, anymore, you step into a freedom that is beyond imagination. Trust that God's will is greater than your plan, wiser than your choices, and more loving than your understanding. Trust that guidance always follows surrender, and that every ending you've faced is simply a doorway to a new beginning, more. This is not a distant promise. It is your reality waiting to be claimed the moment you say, Lord, I surrender everything to you. You may feel uncertain. You may feel scared. More. But let that be the exact reason you surrender. Because when you do, your life stops being about control, stops being about struggle, and starts being about trust, peace, and purpose. Your heart will find rest, your mind will find clarity, and your spirit will find the power to rise above anything that has tried to hold you down. So today, make the choice. Release the weight. Step into the freedom. Walk forward in faith. Because surrender is not weakness. It is the boldest act of strength you will ever take. And when you surrender, more, you don't just follow God's plan, you live it fully, freely, and with joy that nothing in this world can take away. Say it now in your heart, Lord, I surrender everything to you. Let it echo in your life, let it transform your days, and let it open the door to blessings, breakthroughs, and freedom beyond what you could ever imagine. This is your moment. This is your turning point. Your new beginning starts today.